Letty with Times Union and TimesUnion.com, and welcome to 20 Things Plus, where each week we catch up with somebody previously featured on the Times Union's 20 Things You Don't Know About Me. Today we are joined by Solomon Syed. Solomon is the Assistant Vice President of Marketing and Communications at SUNY Empire State College. You also probably remember both his name and his face as a former anchor at Spectrum News. Hi, Solomon.
Hey, Kristi, it's good to see you.
You too. That title, I feel like on a resume, it's going to take up 2 lines. That's an impressive title, your new title at SUNY Empire College. I like it.
Oh, thank you, Kristi. And it's funny that you say that. Yeah, for spacing purposes, I might bleed onto a second page on the resume, so I'm going to have to do some reorganizing. My new bosses will probably be happy to know I haven't fiddled with my resume at all since I took this new job. So
that's a good thing. So here's what we're going to do. We will catch up on 2 original things. You'll share 3 new things, and we'll play a little game at the end.
I like games.
I like games too. And I have a feeling you're going to do well at this game. But first,
that's a lot of pressure though, Kristi, because if I don't get it right.
I also kind of threw you a softball, but we'll see that in a minute. But first, let's start with your updates. So I remember in your original 20 things, you talked about being a sneaker fanatic and having tons of sneakers. Has your collection grown, shrunk, or where are you with that?
All right, so it grew and then it shrunk. So in 2018, when I first did 20 Things You Didn't Know About Me, I had about roughly 30, maybe mid 30 number of pair of Air Jordans. And I had, I like to work out too, so I had a lot of athletic sneakers too, but the Jordans were like the crown jewel of my sneaker collection. So I actually got all the way up to the low 40s. But since quarantine, my baby brother and I actually started selling some of these Jordans, and he has a couple of pairs of sneakers too. And we have basketball and baseball jerseys. We like to collect them. So we actually have turned it into a little bit of a side business. So we've started selling a lot of these on eBay. And, initially it was kind of hard to part company with some of these because you develop like an attachment to these things. They're a connection back to your childhood. So, but without giving away too much, the money was just too good that we were making from these eBay sells. So so the collection went from mid 30s to low 40s, and now it's in the 20s. So I don't know if I have to start building back up with some of the revenue we made from this eBay side business, or maybe just, keep it status quo for a little bit. But that's where I'm at with the collection right now. It grew and now it's shrunk.
When you say they're hard to part with, I have visions of you going to the post office, hugging the box, and like the postal worker pulling the box out of your hand. Now,
that did happen actually in one case. I was walking up and there was a pair that I really, really liked. It was a pair of sneakerheads will know this, the Retro 11s. They have patent leather on them, and I sold one pair of them, and those are very hard to find. And yes, they basically had to rip the package out of my hand. And, I'm not going to say I shed a tear as I saw them cash it out and, put the mailing sticker on it, but it was tough to part with. I'm not going to lie.
So when I think of Air Jordans, I think of the ones with the pump. Remember the ones with the pump? Did you have one of those?
You're actually, not to correct you, but you're thinking of Reeboks, the Insta Pumps. I never had a pair of those. And oddly enough, I wanted a pair, especially when they put the technology on Shaquille O'Neal sneakers. I'm the oldest of 5 siblings, and my middle brother, he actually had those when he was a kid. And I always used to admire them. They were way too expensive for me to get at that time, because I think the Instapump technology was more expensive than the Air Jordan technology, go figure. But no, I never had a pair of those. That's one sneaker that's eluded me. So maybe that's it, Kristi. Maybe that'll be the next foray into the sneaker expansion.
And now you've given me a fashion lesson. So now I know the difference between the Air Jordans and Reebok. So thank you. All right.
Learn something new every day, right?
You definitely do. Okay, now we're moving on to Yankees. I know you're a huge sports fan. You're a big Yankees fan. I remember you talking originally that despite being a big fan, you didn't go to your first game until you were a teenager. But then after that, it was every season, multiple games. What did you do this year?
Oh my gosh. Well, like everybody during the pandemic, you couldn't go to Yankee Stadium, and you really couldn't go to any stadium in the Northeast. And they did intra-division play, be it in the American League East and the National League East. So there was no opportunity to go to a game. So wisely, I did not go to a game. And obviously thousands of other fans didn't go to any games either. Also, in my last 20 things you didn't know about me, I would travel yearly with the Patriots. I have that weird yin and yang where I have, my two of my most lovable teams, the Yankees and the Patriots. Go figure. A lot of people, they ask me a lot of questions about that. How are you a Yankees fan and a Patriots fan?
Right.
I have
How
a
are
fun
you
story
crossing New
behind
York
that
and New
too.
England and putting them together?
Right. So we could elaborate on that in a moment if you'd like, but I didn't travel with the Patriots this year either. So my last live pro sporting event was last October 26th, actually. I went to Madison Square Garden to see the Knicks play the Celtics. So I really cherish those, that memory. I have a lot of pictures from that game because I have a friend that actually got us courtside access afterwards. So it was a fun experience. And I guess if you're going to have one last, live sporting event before we have this, unfortunate pandemic that prevents everybody from doing a lot of the things that they love, that's a good memory to hang on to until, things get better and we start to hopefully get back to whatever this new normal is.
I was going to say, we're not going to call it your last. We're going to call it the temporary interruption because we're going to come back and we're all going to be back at our live event soon.
Amen to that, Kristi. I like that phrasing too.
Very cool. Okay, now I want to learn 3 new things about you. I follow you on social media. As you know, I'm often texting you saying, oh, look at this. I love this. You do a lot of exciting things. Your life is very active. So let's first talk about the biggest one, which was a huge story for us when we wrote about it. You left broadcasting and the story blew up on our website because everyone thought, no, where's Solomon going? So talk to us about what you're doing now.
I didn't really know what the future was going to hold when I started to kind of have those conversations internally with myself about what the next step would be for me. And, I'm a bit of a rolling stone when it comes to career moves. I got a law degree and then instead of becoming a lawyer, I went into television broadcasting, and I kind of like the every 10 years thing, change your career every 10 years. I don't know if that's actually going to be something that I do, but it sounds like a fun, life path to take. But that's what I'm doing right now. I just love this place. I got to be honest with you, Kristi, because everybody here is so passionate about the purpose of the school.
All right, so now we're going to transition from career to social life. And I know you were a big traveler. We talked a lot about travel in your first 20 things. I think your traveling, like everyone's traveling, was curbed a little bit this last year. So where did you go and what did you do?
I didn't do a whole lot, to be honest with you. And, for safety reasons, obviously, but one trip that I did make this year, and it was by car, I went to the northern tip of Lake Champlain. My friend, her family has a camp. Actually, it's really neat how it's set up. It's right on the northern tip, and her parents have a camp there, and they're right next to her grandparents too. So it's almost like a family compound in a sense. So it was right at the time in May where I was starting to have, like I referenced before, these internal conversations about maybe, what might come next for me, Kristi. And it was nice to my friend said, you need to get away. Like, you just need to kind of put this all to bed in your brain for a little bit and let's go. It's very peaceful and tranquil and quiet up there. And she was not lying. I mean, it was so serene to be on the northern tip of Lake Champlain. The water's very calm and it's not very warm in May. It gets so cold up there and the water is still freezing. So we couldn't take a dip in it, but the water's very peaceful and tranquil. And it was nice because it was, mid 70s during the day. I think it got close to 80 one of the days, but then at night it's cold enough that you could get a campfire going. And the cool thing is from their vantage point, if you look north on Lake Champlain, you can see the haze from the lights in Montreal. And then if you look a little south, you can see the lights from the border crossing. So it's just kind of neat.
How close it would be to Canada being there.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's actually funny. That was the added benefit too. I'm like you, I'm connected to my technology a lot. And, Mutual Admiration Society, Kristi, I follow a lot of, your exploits on social media too. So I know we text.
Oh, my exploits. Oh boy.
Exploits. Yeah, exactly. Your adventures. But it was great because we were so close to Canada that I started to dip into my international calling allowance. So I just put the phone away, minus one campfire picture I took. And it was nice to just really disconnect for, a good 4 or 5 days and kind of tune out the noise, so to speak, and, reflect on life and, some of what I might want to do in the next few months. And, a lot changed.
Yes.
I didn't know, what was coming down the road in May, but, it's amazing everything that can change in such a short period of time.
And then, well, another big change for you is you've lost a lot of weight. So how did you do it and how much did you lose?
So I guess, I lost a lot of weight since the end of last year. So you're talking like almost exactly a year. I've lost 10 pounds. And it kind of happened I have a small frame, so I feel like it shows
Oh,
up
that's
a
why it
little
looks
more
like more.
noticeably. Yes. So it kind of happened by accident, Kristi. Like most folks during the pandemic, we've kind of discovered new hobbies just by necessity. So the gym's closed, and I was always somebody who didn't, pay a lot of attention, I should say, to cardio. I'd do the weightlifting and I'd make sure I got my 10-minute lazy run in on the treadmill. And when the pandemic hit and the gym's closed, I had to start running outside. And so I kind of just started building up my stamina. And then I started to discover what runners talk about, which is, that runner's high I had never experienced before. And to be honest, I thought it was a myth. Like, no way, you're not getting a runner's high. You stop that. But no, it's true. Once you push past the mile, you really get that runner's high. So it just, my endurance kept building up. I kept running longer and longer, and it kind of became a hobby. But then, one day I stepped on the scale and I'm like, aha, in addition to this runner's high, there's this other benefit of you're in way better shape. Your cardiovascular function is great. I'm running outside now in the winter, and I used to feel that burning in your lungs if you ever even did even a little bit of activity outside in the cold, and I don't even get that now. So it's kind of cool to see the evolution of my endurance with this too. But so that's really what happened. It kind of just happened by accident. Stepped on the scale one day and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't weighed this little since my senior year of high school. So
I get that
it's
burning
been
in my
fun.
lungs if I'm walking from my car in the parking lot to like the door at Target if there's a slight incline in the parking lot. So maybe that means I need to really start running, because I can basically run about 1/8 of a mile and then I want to sit down.
Hey, that's where I started. And then look, little by little, like I remember the first run I went on when I started to run outside, I didn't even get through a mile, Kristi, and I was huffing and puffing. And I walked for a half mile and then tried to get another mile in. I maybe jogged another half mile and I was like, I can't keep going. But so that's where I started kind of back in March. And now I'm at the point where, in one clip I could do, 6 miles pretty easy. I'd probably go for longer, but your knees get kind of tight a little bit. I don't have the best knees in the world. They're not horrible, but I have to give them a rest every now and then.
Here's the thing. You are too young to have bad knees. Let me say that first.
I agree with that. I'm not hopeful about the future.
All right. Well, Solomon, thank you so much for sharing all of that. At this point, we are going to play the game where you try to guess who Monday's 20 Things You Don't Know About Me may be. I'm going to give you 3 clues, and viewers and readers can also guess by tweeting at Times Union, tweeting me at Just Kristi, or commenting on this video on the Times Union's Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube pages. So here we go. Ready? I worked at the Saratoga racetrack one summer. My grandpa ran a food stand called Saratoga Chicken. He has worked at the track for as long as I can remember, and last year he was bartending up in the clubhouse. Next one. 6 people in my family have had kidney transplants. My mom, her 4 siblings, and my sister. That's the list of people. I did a story on organ donation last year for WMYT. I interviewed Bernie Sanders one-on-one when I worked in Binghamton and he was running for president. He asked if I was related to Danny DeVito. That's a question I get a lot. I am not.
I know this.
Those are softball clues. Do you know who it is?
Those are softball clues. So let's see. As an homage to Alex Trebek, who we lost this year, unfortunately, I'm going to say, who is Emily DeVito?
Very good. You got it. And Emily is Monday's 20 Things. She'll be live on timesunion.com starting Monday at 7. And she is due with twins, I think, in the next month, but twins come early. So hopefully between now and then, we might be announcing labor and Emily's new 20 Things. So thank you so much for joining us, Solomon. Good luck in your job. Keep running. I always say I'll never be a runner, but hearing that story makes me think maybe even I can do it too.
Hey, if you ever want to meet up on the rail trail and get a jog in, let me
I'll be
know.
huffing behind you. All right. Bye, Solomon. Thank you.
You're the best, Kristi. Thanks.